It's December 20th, 1995. American Airlines Flight 965 is on its way from Miami to Cali, Colombia. You know, it's packed with people heading home for the holidays. Now, the flight is running late, almost 2 hours behind schedule. But other than that, everything seems pretty normal as this state-of-the-art Boeing 757 starts its descent through a clear night sky.
But then, in the final few minutes, this is the sound that fills the cockpit. That's the blaring, robotic voice of the ground proximity warning system. It's a frantic, desperate alarm, and it means one thing. The plane is just seconds away from slamming into a mountain. The last words the cockpit voice recorder picked up from the captain were, "Pull up, baby."
So, how on earth does this happen? We're talking about a modern jet, an experienced crew. It just doesn't add up. The story of Flight 965 is this incredible puzzle. It's got human error, some really weird tech quirks, and a communication breakdown at the absolute worst possible moment. To figure this out, we need to rewind the clock just a few minutes. Okay, so as the flight gets closer to Cali, you have to understand the crew is feeling the pressure. They're late, and they really want to get this plane on the ground. And that's right when they get an interesting offer from air traffic control. The controller on the ground sees that the winds are calm, so he offers them a more direct, straight-in approach to the runway. It's a shortcut, basically, a way to save some time. The pilots, they jump at the chance. You can even hear the first officer on the recording say, "Yeah, we'll have to scramble to get down, we can do it." And that single, simple decision, well, it kicked off a chain of events that no one could stop.
So here's where that desire to save time leads to a massive, massive navigational mistake. To fly this new, quicker approach, the pilots had to reprogram their very sophisticated flight management system, the FMS, and because they were in a rush, they had to do it fast.
And just look how quickly this all goes wrong. They needed to fly to a navigational point, a beacon, called Rozo. On their paper charts, the code for Rozo was just the letter R. Simple enough, right? So they type R into the computer. But the computer's database had a different idea. It saw R and pulled up another beacon, one called Romeo, which was way over by Bogota, 150 miles to the east. The autopilot did exactly what it was told and started this long, gentle turn, sending the plane straight towards a dark valley ringed by mountains. So this is the heart of the error, a translation problem between the paper and the computer. The pilot's chart said R, but the computer's database needed ROZO spelled out. One single letter sent them 150 miles in the wrong direction. It's just a wild example of how all this amazing automation, which is supposed to make life easier, can sometimes create these bizarre hidden traps. And if that wasn't bad enough, the technology actually made the confusion worse. The moment they told the computer to fly direct to what they thought was Rozo, the system completely wiped all the other points of their original flight path from the screen. So their digital map, the thing that's supposed to show them the way, it just went blank. They were digitally lost, flying deeper and deeper into danger. So now you have a confused crew, basically flying blind. Their last line of defense should have been the air traffic controller on the ground, but this is where the breakdown becomes about more than just technology. It becomes about language, a completely different kind of translation error. And you're not going to believe the irony here. American Airlines' own pilot guide for flying in Latin America specifically warned about this exact problem. It basically told pilots, hey, stick to the script, use only standard internationally approved phrases because the local controller might not understand anything else. It was a warning that, in their moment of confusion, the crew of Flight 965 just couldn't follow. And think about the guy on the other end of the radio, the controller in Cali. The investigation found that he had this gut feeling. He thought the pilot's requests were weird, that they didn't really make sense. He knew something was off. But he just didn't have the non-standard English vocabulary to challenge these experienced American pilots. He couldn't find the words to ask the simple, crucial question, hey, are you sure you know where you're going? So what you have is this absolute perfect storm of miscommunication. First off, Cali didn't have radar. It had been destroyed. So the controller was completely blind. He depended 100% on what the pilots told him their position was. So when their reports got confusing because they were lost, that language barrier became a solid brick wall. There was no way to dig deeper, no way to question their bizarre turn. The last chance to break that chain of errors was gone. In the aftermath, of course, came the investigation. And as the experts piece it all together, they uncovered this tragic story of missed warnings and bad decisions, all made under some pretty intense pressure. By the time the pilots finally realized how close they were to the mountain, it was just too late.
The plane's own warning system gave them 13 seconds. Just 13 seconds before impact. They reacted immediately, yanking the controls back, throwing the engines to full power, but it just wasn't enough. The official report put the blame squarely on the flight crew. It said they failed to properly plan for that new approach, that they missed numerous signs that they were lost, and this is the big one, that they failed to just ditch the confusing computer system and go back to basic, old-school navigation.
Of course, a lot of other things played a part. That constant pressure to hurry up, the confusing computer. But there's one last detail that is just absolutely heartbreaking. In that last-ditch effort to climb, in those final 13 seconds, they forgot to retract the speed brakes. These are panels on the wings they'd used to descend faster. Leaving them out crippled the plane's ability to climb. It was like trying to race uphill with an anchor dragging behind you. It sealed their fate.
You know, in aviation, every tragedy, as awful as it is, carries lessons forward to try and prevent it from ever happening again. And the crash of Flight 965 had a huge, lasting impact on safety around the world, especially when it came to fighting one very specific type of accident. This crash was a textbook case of what's called controlled flight into terrain, or CFIT. Now, think about that name. It's a chilling idea. The airplane is working perfectly. The pilots are in full control. They just have no idea a mountain is right in front of them until it's too late. For decades, CFIT was one of the biggest killers in aviation. The loss of Flight 965 really lit a fire under the industry to fix this problem for good. It spurred the creation and mandatory use of a new system called EGPWS, or Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System. The old system was reactive. It basically just looked straight down, giving you only seconds of warning. But the new system is predictive. It uses GPS and a global terrain map to look ahead of the plane, giving pilots minutes of warning, not seconds. And this technology has been a total game changer. It has virtually wiped out CFIT accidents for commercial airlines.
So that kind of leaves us with this one big question. You had one of the most advanced airplanes of its time, and it was brought down by a single-letter typo and a language barrier. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how smart our technology gets, maybe that ability for two people to just communicate clearly, to be able to ask, "Are you sure?" and understand the answer, maybe that's our ultimate safety net.